You can go ahead and find a seat on your mat. If you are interested in using blocks, a blanket, or a pillow, go ahead and grab those so that they are close at hand before we begin. Once you find your comfortable seat, whether it's on the mat or on your pillow or blanket, begin to focus on your breath, filling up your belly and ribs and lungs as you soften your gaze or close your eyes. Continue breathing here, becoming aware of this present moment and the space that you find yourself in. As I read you our verse for today's practice, Psalm 37:4 says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." In light of this verse, how are you arriving today? Or simply put, how are you? How are you in your body, in your mind, in your spirit? Do you feel stressed or anxious or tired? Do you feel happy, excited, delightful, delighted in? Whatever it is that you're feeling today, maybe you're just noticing how your body's feeling. That's wonderful to notice as well. Don't judge it or try to change it. Just become aware of it and offer that up to the Lord as we move today. On an inhale, lift your arms over your head, and on an exhale, bring down to prayer. Inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale to prayer. Once more, arms up overhead. Exhale to prayer. This time, bringing your arms up overhead, you'll place your right hand on your mat and begin to lean towards the right so that you're opening up in your left side body. You can remain still here or find movement. That's an option for any of the poses that we do today. They're just a framework for you to play around in and find delight in your body today. Maybe your body is going to delight in moving a bit more. Or maybe it's going to delight in slowing down and finding stillness. Whatever it is, make sure it's delightful. On an inhale, raise your right arm back up. And on an exhale, lower your left hand down to your mat. And doing the same thing on the second side here. Creating space in that right side body. Moving or remaining still. Inhale, arms back up. And release down to your legs. Here you can begin to tilt or roll your neck gently, becoming aware of any sticky spots. If you're rolling, go one way, pause, and then roll the other way. You can try rolling out your wrists and your fingers, waking up those small joints and parts of your body that are so important and we use for so many things, and we don't often give them the love that they need. Rolling out your ankles, wiggling your toes, stretching your feet, waking up our whole body here. Once you have gotten your body warmed up, go ahead onto your hands and knees for a table, and we'll begin to move into our cat-cow. So on an inhale, releasing that pelvis down towards your thighs. So your belly is coming down towards your mat, opening up in your chest, lifting up in your throat, lifting up your chin into your cow. Finding your breath. And then on an exhale, begin tipping that pelvis towards your stomach And you're rounding in your back as if you were an angry cat. Finding that roundness, that openness in your back all the way up through your shoulders, and then tucking your chin to your chest. And again, just doing this a few times on your own, whether following your breath or moving really slow. That can feel nice. Finding delight, even in these movements that are so common at the beginning of yoga practices that we might just kind of do them without even thinking. And just see if you can find delight even in these seemingly unimportant movements. They're not unimportant, but they might feel like it, but they're so important, just as important as the big movements, because they set us up for success. They set us up for openness and stability. If you were to jump right into our most heated pose for this practice without doing any of this, probably wouldn't be a great idea. But we do those mundane, faithful things because we're building up a good foundation, and that's what we're doing in this practice. Once you're done with your final cat, return back to table. You're going to extend your right leg out to the side, and it can be straight out or it can be a little bit farther closer to the back of your mat. The idea is that your foot is flat on the ground. And we're going to try to find some opening in your inner thigh. If you feel this, great. If you don't feel it, that's okay too. It's still opening. On an inhale, you're going to tip forward just a bit, and then on an exhale, you'll release those hips back almost as if you're going into child's pose. Inhaling forward, exhaling back. Once more, inhaling forward, keeping that back neutral, exhaling back. Inhale back to your table and take that extended leg and kind of rainbow it back so now it's at the back of your mat, still extended. And inhaling forward and then exhaling back just into your extended leg so that you're finding a stretch in your calf, your foot, your hamstring. Doing that a few times, breathing into it, connecting our breath with our movement. Once you've done that a few times, we're going to kickstand that your left shin out. So it's going to be your support. You're going to take that right foot and put it at the back corner of your mat, so the back left corner. And we're going to go into a supported side plank. Make sure that you are putting weight into the outer edge of that right foot. Your left hand is on the mat and your right hand is extended. You can stay here, find movement here, or you can find some play. You can explore. You can find delight in these movements. Try lifting up that back leg. You can try extending your arm all the way over your head, finding a straight line between your fingers and your right fingers and your right foot. You could even try, if you want to get a little wild, grabbing your right foot behind you with your right hand. You might fall over. You might not. You might not even get close to your foot. And that is totally fine as long as you are finding delight in playing in this body and in this space that God has given you today. You could try using your blanket to bring your foot a little bit closer. That could be fun to try. If none of this is working for you, you're very welcome to go back to table. Finishing your play on this side, we will all meet in table, and we'll do this on our second side. So extending that left leg out to the side, again, finding the angle that works for your body. If it feels like there's some pinching or pain, release it back a little farther towards the back of your mat. Inhale, leaning forward. Exhale, releasing back into that like half child's pose. Inhale forward, exhale back. Once more, inhale forward, and then exhale back. Release back up into your table. rainbow that left foot back to the back of your mat, and we'll stretch out in the back of that leg again, just like we did on the right side. Inhaling to move forward. Exhale to lean back and find that stretch. I love doing this also for the big muscles in my leg, but also for my feet and in the arches of my foot. That can feel really nice. Finding some openness in there. I think our feet often get so tight, and depending on what shoes you wear or what you do for your day, there's can be a lot of pressure on your feet, and it can feel nice to just find that openness in there with still having a lot of support with your body underneath you. Once you are done, you are going to kickstand that right leg out this time as we move into our supported side angle. So that left foot will find the back right corner, pressing into the outer edge of your left foot, putting your right hand on the mat and extending your left hand up. And again, find some play, find some delight and some exploration in this. I think the reason that kids are so good at playing and being finding delight in things is because they're willing to explore. They're willing to try things out. Sometimes they get hurt, and we don't want that, but they are willing to be a little adventurous. And so find the adventure in this. Find the joy in discovering maybe something you didn't know your body could do, or maybe something you've been working on and you're able to do it, or maybe listening to your body and finding delight and becoming more aware of what your body is asking for. All of those are good things. Once you are done playing, release back to a table. Tuck your toes, bend your knees, and lift your hips up into our first downward facing dog. Feel free to pedal your legs out. As you're moving in downward dog, roll forward into a plank and step to the front of your mat or the top of your mat into forward fold. Your knees, hips, and feet are all pointing forward. Put as much bend in those knees as you would like. Belly and chest are on your thighs or close to, at least in that direction. And then your upper body is just relaxed. Making sure that your hips are the things that are pointing up and you're not pulling on your lower back. So if you're starting to feel a lot of pressure in your lower back, try making sure that it's your hips that are pointing up towards the ceiling and not just your back. You're welcome to use a block here to put under your hands, and that will help take some pressure off your lower back as well, bringing that ground closer to your hands. Might feel a little bit more restorative. You could also try putting your hands on the opposite elbows and just swinging back and forth, releasing tension in that upper body. Placing your hands on blocks, shins or thighs, lift halfway, or your version of halfway. Release back down to forward fold. And then slowly, one vertebrae at a time, stand all the way up. Arms up overhead, and release to prayer as we find ourselves in mountain. Now I'm going to vocally lead you through 2 rounds of Sun Salutation A. And as I offer you this flow, and if you find a pose that you're just really digging, that you just are finding a lot of delight in, and you want to hang out in it longer than I am saying, go for it. If there's something you want to skip because you are not finding that delightful, that is great too. This is all about finding delight in our bodies and in the movement that God has given us. And wouldn't you know it, when we do that, it delights Him. So here we go, 2 rounds, and we will meet in mountain wherever you end up during these 2 rounds. On an inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, release all the way down to a forward fold. And again, you're welcome to use blocks at any time. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Placing your hands on the mat, step your feet back into plank. You can remain in a high plank here, or you can place your knees on the mat. Either way, lower yourself all the way down to your mat. Here you also have some options for a different kind of back bend. So you can do a baby cobra where your chest is lifted off of your mat, elbows are greatly bent. You can do a full cobra where your chest and your belly are off the mat, or you can do an upward facing dog, which would be probably the greatest degree of a back bend, where your upper thighs are also off the mat, whichever one feels most delightful for you. Breathing, release that back down. Moving through table if you'd like, go back into up or downward facing dog. Finding breath here, a couple of rounds. As we move through these shapes, can you offer your delight to him? As things start to heat up, can you find delight in that heat, in that effort? As we build strength and balance and create space, can you find the delight in the hard things? Because that is where true long-lasting delight is forged. Roll forward into plank. Step up to the top of your mat into forward fold. Half lift. Release into a forward fold. And then standing all the way up. Arms up overhead. Release to mountain. We'll do this one more time and then meet in mountain. On an inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Stepping back into plank, finding the plank of your choice. Release all the way down to the mat. Finding the back bend of your choice. Open up in that chest, in that front part of your body. Release that back down to the mat, and then push yourself up and back into a downward facing dog. Finding a couple of rounds of breath here. Roll forward into plank. Step to the top of your mat into forward fold. Half lift. Forward fold. And then release all the way back up. Arms up overhead. Back into mountain. Well done. Now you're going to step back with your right foot into a high lunge. So hips are still pointing forward. Front knee is bent. Back heel is up. You can have as much bend in your back leg as you need to feel stable. The more straightness that you put into that leg, the more effort will be needed for balance. So it's just something to consider. Arms up overhead, either straight up ahead or into a V shape. I like a V as it offers a little bit more space, but either one is fine. Then you're going to pivot that back foot as we move into Warrior Two. Something to check here in Warrior Two is your hips. And I had a yoga teacher offer me this tip, and I just love it. So for just a moment, we're going to straighten that front knee, and we're going to check where our hips are at. So placing your hands on your hips, are they kind of tilted one way or the other? If they are, get them neutral and even, and then bend back into your front knee. And see if you just notice any difference with your hips being neutral versus tilted one way or the other. Something to think about. On an inhale, we're going to flip our palms up and release back into our reverse warrior. So back hand is on your back thigh, front hand is up, and you're welcome to reach back as much as you feel comfortable, but the degree of your bend is not what we're looking for. We're just looking for a balance, for an openness, finding stability in that lower body. Your lower body has not changed, it's just the upper half. Release back to Warrior Two. Then you're going to take your front arm and you're going to bend at your elbow as if you're like blocking a karate chop or something. And you're going to tip forward into our side angle. Your arm is going to land on your front thigh. It's there for more of a boundary than a support. Just to know for your body's sake where you should maybe stop at that point. Your back hand will come up with you. If you would like, you can take a block and place it on the inside of that front foot and place your hand on it to see if That brings delight. You could also try reaching for the ground. Finding delight in our movements. Release back up to warrior two. You're going to pivot that front foot so that both feet are facing the long edge of your mat. Welcome to change the spacing in your stance to what you need. Slight bend in the knees. Hands on your hip, hinging at your hips and leading with your heart. Bend forward into a wide-legged forward fold. Again, welcome to use blocks here to bring the floor closer to you. You can also take some pressure off of your lower back or your hips. Feel free to find stillness or movement in this pose. There's this quote by Irenaeus that says, "The glory of God is a man fully alive." And I love that. Who does not want to be fully alive? And when we delight in God, in our Creator, that's when we become the most alive, because we become the true version of ourselves that He created us to be. And in return, that brings Him delight. So how does God see you today? Are you fully alive as you delight in Him? Place your hands on your thighs and push yourself back up. We're going to reverse this back into our warrior two, then into our high lunge and back to the top of our mat. Stepping back with your left foot into that high lunge. We're going to do this on the second side. Breathing in that high lunge. And then pivot and open into that warrior two. So your back foot is parallel with the short edge of your mat. Front knee is bent. Check those hips. Arms are out. Eyes are gazing forward. Flip your palms and tip back into our reverse warrior. Finding delight in this hard work. Release back up to our warrior two. And remember, your lower half is not changing. It's just the top half of your body. Get that karate chop arm out. I'm sure there's an official term for it, but that's what it makes me think of. And again, you can either bend forward onto your thigh. You can use a block here on the inside of your foot. Play around, just like we did earlier. We did a similar one of these poses at the beginning when we were doing the supported side plank. This time you're just standing, so it's a little more effortful. But play around. Find space. Find delight in these movements. And as you delight in who God made you to be and in your Creator, He delights in you. Reverse back up into our warrior two. And then pivot both feet so they're facing the long edge of your mat. Hands on your hips, hinging at your hips, leading with your heart into a wide-legged forward fold. Again, blocks can be nice here. Movement or stillness. Zephaniah 3:17 says that He rejoices or He delights over us with singing. What a beautiful picture of a heavenly Father who loves His children. As we delight in Him, He delights in us. It's like a beautiful dance. Releasing back up, placing your hands on your thighs so that you are standing. Back into our warrior two, high lunge, and then back at the top of our mat. Release down into a forward fold, just kind of rinsing out some of that heat that we've built. We've got a little bit of heat left. We're almost there. We're going to step back with your left foot into a low lunge. Placing your right foot on the outside of your hands, kind of heel toe it over to the side of your mat. Just begin to rock back and forth, just gently, finding space here. You can continue this, or you can take that left knee and scoot it back just slightly so that you're creating some space in those hip flexors, those really upper high inner thighs. And begin to arch your back up, kind of like we did in sun salutations, like a back bend. And then using blocks here would be lovely if you would like to, or you can use your hands. Begin to lower down into lizard. Finding the delight in the discomfort. Can you find the delight in this? When things are hard, can you find something to delight in? Push your upper body back up. Bring your left knee so it's more neutral, kind of like a table. And we're going to turn this into a squat. So taking your right foot, you can keep it pointing straight or kind of at an angle, so rotating it externally, opening it up. And have your left foot come up and match whatever your right foot is doing. Then, if you would like to use a block to sit on as we get to that point, please go ahead and feel free to do that. Your pillow, blanket, any of that would be great. You're going to place your hands at heart center and slowly begin to bend into your knees and releasing your hips towards your block, the ground, whatever it is you have there waiting for you. It's okay if your bottom does not touch whatever you're reaching for. The idea is just to find a squat position. You have a neutral, strong spine. It's okay if you're tipping forward just a bit. Your body does not go straight like a straight line, then you have a curve. Finding space there. If you would like to put your hands down on the mat for some balance, support, that's great too. Breathing here, finding delight in the hard. Smiling here physically if you need to. Okay, we're going to release this into lizard on the other side. So placing your right knee down on the mat, you can extend that behind you. Then taking your left foot, and if it's not already pointing forward, go ahead and do that and have it on towards the outside edge of your mat so that it's outside of both of your hands. Placing your hands on the mat. Once you have found your lizard pose, go ahead and rock back and forth, finding some more space in there. You can continue doing that, or you can continue adding layers to this. Arching back into a back bend of sorts, and then begin slowly lowering down into your lizard. If you would like to push your right knee back just a little bit on the mat, that might open up some more space. If that feels like too much, you can move it back closer to your body. Breathing here. Finding the delight. Placing your hands on the mat if they're not there already. Pushing yourself up. Bring your left knee back to mat. Meet up with your right knee so you are in a table position. From here, we're going to find child's pose. You can keep your knees together so that your torso will be resting on your knees and your thighs. Or you can keep your big toes together and spread those knees apart so that you have a little bit more space. Either option is great. Arms can be extended as you lower your torso, or they can be down along the side of your body. If you like to put a pillow and a blanket under your torso, that can feel really nice, very restorative. If placing your face straight down on the mat feels uncomfortable for you, you're welcome to place a cheek on there so that your face is pointing out. Beginning to bring some calm, some slowness, and some softness into our delight. I'm going to read our verse once more as we begin to slow down and close this practice. Psalm 37:4 says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." Upon hearing this verse, how do you want to respond to God? How do you want to delight yourself in Him today? And how is He delighting in you. You're welcome to stay here for the remaining of the practice, or you can move to your back where we will find some final intuitive movements. You can waterfall your arms and legs, stick them straight up in the air, and rotate your wrists, ankles. Perhaps you would like to bring your knees to your chest and rock side to side. Maybe you would like to grab your big toes, bend your knees, and find happy baby. That can be very delightful. Whatever it is your body's asking for as we slow down, go ahead and do that for the next few breaths. We have found the delight in the effort, in the strength, in the heat, in the excitement. But there's also delight to be found in the ease and the softness and the calm and the stillness. Once you have completed your final movements, find your final resting pose and make it as cozy as you can. Pillows, blankets, laying on your back, sitting up on your mat. Maybe you want to go back to that restorative child's pose. Wherever it is, make it as comfy as you can. Once you have found your final resting pose, close your eyes, soften your gaze, and just find that breath again, filling up your belly, your ribs, and your lungs. And we'll finish today's practice with a simple breath prayer. On an inhale, I delight in you. And on an exhale, you can say, as you delight in me. Inhale, I delight in you. Exhale, as you delight in me. God, we thank you for this opportunity to delight ourselves in you today. Whether we came with heaviness or happiness, we can always find delight in you. And we thank you that you delight in us, that you love us, that you rejoice over us with singing, that you celebrate us, that you are madly in love with us. I pray for my friends who have practiced with me today, that they would go forward in peace